over a federal court decision Friday that awarded her $500,000 in a sexual discrimination suit against the Puget Sound National Bank. Linda Kennedy has the story of this woman's fight and victory over her former employer.
I felt dirty. I felt degraded and just worthless. Like
the last 4 years haven't been easy for Dee Paty. In 1980, she got a job as a printing supervisor for Puget Sound National Bank. And for the next 14 months, her career deteriorated around her. She was subjected to sexual innuendo, jokes, propositions, and told the only way she could get ahead was to go to bed with her bosses. When she didn't cooperate, she was demoted, then fired. For 6 months, Dee Paty, a wife and mother of 4, says she was depressed and didn't leave her house. Then things started looking up.
Mike and I decided that we were going to go into a business we call it Dee Michaels. It's a printing brokerage, and use that as therapy to get me back out into the public so that I couldn't bury myself in this house, keep myself in this little cocoon, and shut the world out and be myself again.
Last year, Paty hired an attorney and filed suit against Puget Sound National Bank. She says now she's very glad the whole ordeal is over, and she wants to help others avoid what she went through.
We want businesses to realize that they can't continue to do this to people. They've got to get rid of the old boys club stuff and get with the change, get with the new blood.
No one from Puget Sound National Bank was available to talk with us today.
Want to have your child be a better student? Call the Office of Public Instruction.
It's a known fact that one of the most significant sex harassment lawsuits in the state. John Sandifer now has details of Paty versus Puget Sound National.
What was going on inside this bank in Tacoma may never have come to light if it weren't for the Paty lawsuit. For 20 years, it was common knowledge that women would have to sleep with management in order to get ahead. This was testimony from a former personnel officer. Several female bank employees told about the good old boy network at the bank. Officers popping out for lunch and coming back 3 sheets to the wind and feeling amorous. Most of them didn't complain for fear of losing their jobs. Denise Paty did.
And they were giving me a lot of cooperation up to the point where they said, well, you know how green-eyed blonde-haired dog is in there. And I was just shocked. All of a sudden I get nothing, absolutely no cooperation. And I thought, oh, this is cute. This is cute. I guess they were very serious. Even though they were intoxicated, they were serious.
She took her complaint through the normal grievance procedure all the way up to the bank president. After that, she was demoted. Then she lost her job. And then Denise got herself a good attorney and took it to court. The trial lasted 6 days, and when it was over, the jury had awarded $500,000 for emotional distress and defamation. The judge added $38,000 for lost wages and will soon award additional money for attorney's fees and costs. Even the legal process server hired by the plaintiff's attorney to deliver papers ran into the same attitude and later testified.
This particular person just kind of put his arm half around me and said, well, come on into my office, baby, and we'll talk about what it is you have for me. And I just kind of uncomfortably said, well, I don't really need to step in the office. These papers are for you.
Was it your impression at that time he was making a pass at you?
Most definitely.
It's got to stop. This whole garbage has just got to stop. I don't want my girls out in the working world until this is corrected.
A decision by the bank whether to appeal the case is still being made. Meantime, bank officials have had nothing to say about it, and they remained unavailable for comment today. In the meantime, the lawyer who filed suit on behalf of Denise Paty, Beverly Johnson, has plenty to say about the good old boy network and some advice for other working women.
This case is significant in a lot of other ways because here is one individual, and I'm just one attorney, who took on the bank and said, listen, we're not going to settle for this. Some corrective action needs to be taken. And ironically, the bank said, no, we're going to slap you on the wrist, we're going to recommend her, and we're just going to put this under the rug. It's not going to go anywhere. It's not. This isn't happening to our bank. It couldn't be. Do you know who you are dealing with? Ironically, when I asked the bank president, Mr. Phillips, in court, isn't it true, Mr. Phillips, the bank has never recommended either Dick Milton or Scott Douglas? He said, yes, that's true. So the old boy network continued.
Isn't that what you were doing now? advising other women what their rights are.
We would hope that this type of case would expose more women to the options that they do have. Since the notice and publicity of this case, I've gotten numerous calls, both at my home and office, from women who said, this has happened to me. Some of them are in the stage of being manic depressive.
And she told us, keep a diary, look for witnesses, see an attorney, and act now. John Sandiford, top story. In Washington today, amazing
power plays and the country's frontline fighters for sexual equality. Ladies and gentlemen, the host of Town Meeting, Ken Schramm. Thank you. And welcome to Town Meeting. Okay, sexual discrimination, sexual power plays. On one hand, there are those who maintain that radical feminists and guilt-ridden men are using the law to remake society and nature. But that is a tired old song to women who say all they want is fairness. Socially, legally, economically, we are in one bill of a pickle. We keep going to the courts for answers and we get individual settlements. But where's the progress? Businesses are losing money. Women are losing patience. Men perhaps are losing perspective. We will get to some of those expansive issues in a moment, but first, you want to talk friction, confusion, anger? Well, then let's look at one relatively small, indicative slice of life, I'll get that out, right here in River City. This is People magazine. You ready? Right on the cover, you got Barbara Streisand, you've got Don Willis on the cover. And on page 59, depending on your point of view, you've either got a malcontent sexist or the University of Washington's own Don Quixote. Right? This is a man who saw something that he said was wrong, fought it, and boy, is he involved in something now. Please join me in welcoming Pete Schaub.
Does this even have anything to do with
you? You were this innocuous University of Washington business major, right? Attending classes, all the mundane things that one would expect from someone who's looking forward to graduating in June.
Okay.
Unable to get into one of the classes that you...
They bashed and bashed and bashed through this whole course. I think that it was just geared towards creating a battle of the sexes rather than having a world where people could get along. We have Iran and Iraq fighting, we've got the Crips and the Blood. I think the very last thing that we need is men and women fighting.
But what did you expect? Okay, all right. But it seems to me, at least...
To have opportunities in this country, in the employment area, in the area of family, in each and every aspect of life, so that we can get the truth out, so we can have our perspectives also known.
We need a response to that ridiculous charge. That's one of these main charges that's been launched against me in their campaign, and I think we need a response to that. There were only 4 people at this incident. She's talking about me looming over a woman. This woman was practically a pit bull. She attacked me. She threw out so many expletives, my ears were ringing. We need a response to that.
I'm one of the only men who... Dee is a former Tacoma Bank employee. I'll just very brief background here. Her 2 bosses, the male bosses that she had, came to her and said, you want to get ahead in this company? We want you, in the biblical sense. Beyond that, these 2 men suggested to her that if she were to distribute her sexual favors to important and influential clients at the bank, it would be to her advantage. How long did this go on?
I was there for about 13 months.
So this from the time you started almost?
Oh, no, they gave me a whole bunch of raises and promoted me and so forth. So it's been a good job.
How did this make you feel? I mean, you've been hired to do a specific job, you seem to be doing a good job, you're getting raises, and then all of a sudden this is introduced into the equation.
Well, I was really flattered at first because I thought, I'm doing a good job and everybody's appreciating it.
No, I think you misunderstand me. I don't mean to, because I don't want to leave that you were flattered. I'm talking about when they first began making sexual advances at you. When did that begin and how did that make you feel?
You feel very dirty, like I did. Nothing. My job was useless.
Did you say stop? Did you go to other people?
Oh yeah, I told him to stop. And I went to the personnel department. I went to the vice president of the bank. I even went to the president of the bank. And he said, my officers wouldn't do such a thing.
So in addition to having gone through this, now you're being told, it's your imagination. So that, in addition, compounded your feelings of what?
Helplessness, anger. They can't do this to me, and I wasn't going to stand for it. I told them that they either had to change it, make the correction, do something with these two guys, because they had no right to do that to me. That's not how I was raised, and that's certainly not how the public wants it. No one wants to work in an environment like that.
You sued the bank, you won. Okay, what about the two guys that,
To my knowledge, they're still there. Nothing happened to them.
your husband here, did you guys discuss this? What was your response? Well, but not that you're the big protector here, but, you know, there's an obvious relationship that you two share that was impacted by all that.
Well, first let me clarify one thing. She was never asked to sleep with clients. You said at the opening.
My apologies, I stand corrected, I just misunderstood that.
And again, you know, of all the male employees in the bank, it was these two who basically inferred she was to sleep with them. There's thousands of others that didn't ask her to sleep with them. I almost feel like I have to defend the male, you know, after.
Why? Why do you feel you have to defend? I mean, the point here is that, and this is your wife who's gone through this. You're making her point.
Okay, maybe I am. It was very degrading for her. She would come home basically a basket case, and there was periods of probably 6 months to a year where she wouldn't even leave the house. It got so bad I couldn't even touch her. She was such a nervous wreck. She just like this all the time. To touch her anywhere, especially in her stomach, it was just pain to her. Basically, they convinced her that she was worthless, that she was a troublemaker. She couldn't get along with anybody. She just had a real problem, and they needed to get rid of her because she didn't fit the system. It's interesting, their basic comment was she refuses to cooperate with anybody.
Beverly, you were Dee's attorney. You hear about this all the time, and you say, it's a rare instance. It doesn't happen too often. Unfortunately, it happened to her. Misimpression?
Not a misimpression at all. The problem we have is one of communication and awareness. The problem is there are very few women who have the strength and the wherewithal or even the finances to go through something like that. It's just like a rape. It strips you of your dignity. It strips you of your willingness to relate to other people. But these cases are more and more common. The problem you're having is companies aren't addressing the issues or taking affirmative steps to correct the problem. And that was happened in this case. She went to the bank president. She went up through the chain of command. And the attitude was, no, I know these men for 20 years. They wouldn't do this. Part of the old boys network.
I can't resist the temptation to get all four of our upfront guests to agree, because I'm sure you will. You don't defend what happened to Dee.
Absolutely not. As a matter of fact, one of the problems I had with the class that I was in, they screamed about everything. Now, when a woman has a legitimate cry like this, or even a black person or Jewish person or anyone that's been discriminated against, when a woman has a legitimate cry like this, I worry that classes like this that just teach people to scream discrimination at anything, people like this will not be heard.
Who determines the legitimacy? But maybe something not so blatant. Who determines the legitimacy, Gloria?
Well, that's what courts of law are for, and we have standards, burdens of proof, and so forth. But the point is this, that this is not an isolated incident. This is a very typical example of what's happening in our country. Sexual harassment is continuous, it's pervasive, it's systematic. It's one of the things that keeps women down in low-paying jobs because it's kind of an unfair competition thing. You lose either way. If you comply with what they want for sexual favors, then you're probably eventually going to be fired because then they get tired of you. If you don't, then they're going to reject you because their egos are going to be so shaken and hurt that they're then going to reject him. Either way, the woman loses. And that's what's wrong. We have to eliminate sexual harassment.
Some good men are put in the same boat with bad ones like that.
Okay, hold on a second.